Love it or hate it, Sponsor Run has completely changed its trajectory of Season 2 Marathon. Yo, what's up? You can call me Dirt. For better or for worse, this experimental game mode shaped progression, player behavior, and overall feel of the season. But the question is, was it worth it? With the first patch of Season 2 ready to go and almost done here in the next 30 minutes, I wanted to break down my experiences, what the mode did right, what it didn't, and why the community feels so split on whether it should return or not. When Bungie first announced the new experimental mode for season 2, I was hyped. A PvP, a PvE, and a PvP light mode sounds something exactly what Marathon needed. Extraction shooters, especially Marathon, can be brutally unforgiving. That's part of why I love it, but it also creates a massive barrier for newer casual players. Sponsor Run and Night March, Sponsor Run actually like solved that problem in my opinion. Going in for the first time, I was surprised how they kept the tension and the pressure of a normal run due to the short timer, us having the sponsor kits, which were like gray shields, my bad, and just the roguelike aspect of scavenging for the gear. It forces you to have a plan. Every decision matters. Every mistake matters. And there was real challenge in it. I can't tell you how many times I went into quarantine and like instantly regret it. There'll be like 4 ghosts or a sniper bot, and you're just gone. But the more I played, though, the more I learned. I got better at dealing with the mobs. I learned the map, and I figured out how best. I figured out the gunplay a lot more. All of it made me a better player. And when I went and played normal runs with my buddy, who is much better than me, I took all that what I learned from grinding out Sponsor Run, and I played much better. At this point, I have 178 hours in the game. That experience was genuinely valuable. With that said, I was able to convince a bunch of people to try Marathon during the free week, and we would do perimeter, but it was nice to go into Sponsor Run because it was able to show them what I learned from doing that. Lose a gun didn't feel as bad. You can go and get another one pretty quickly. Help get over gear fear. Let them experience the world. The world. The tension, the loot, without getting instantly crushed. By those people. So I think Sponsor Run was definitely a win for newer players. But there definitely is some issues with Sponsor Run. Some pretty big ones. Progression wise, Sponsor Run it's everywhere. It's just the best way to farm gear for free. And I say free lightly because if you've ever filled Trio and tried to push for Upper Complex, it was just so hit or miss. Some runs were a million times worse than any other map that I played or team. But when you did get a good team though, and everybody knew what was up, I mean, you can consistently farm Upper Complex as long as the RNG gods like didn't fucking hate you. When I would get into one of those groups, we would stay together. We would hit it, 2 or 3 times. We'd, just keep grouping. So my vault is filled up with, blues and purples. And my cradle is level 47. I know some people already have it maxed out. I was too greedy with some of that loot where I lost it doing normals, but still, it's a huge thing. And me personally, I grind a lot of Sponsor Run. I grind a lot of it. And I wasn't really super lucky on any of the drops. It was mostly, again, blues and purples, with a few occasions of a gold weapon here and there. But the point is, though, if you have a good trio, the loot would eventually drop. if you're good enough and then you get it on farm, like the loot will eventually drop. So if you know life that your vault could be full of gold by now. And it's only been like a week since season 2 came out. And I think that's a huge problem, right? Because the thing that I was most excited for when season 2 came out, everyone starts fresh. Every item matter, every resource matters. And I didn't get to experience that with season 1. I came at about a week or two at the end of season 1. So I was already, I was just behind, and I still haven't never ran cryo yet. But I was just excited to experience that. And with sponsor runs, I mean, it's pretty much moot point, right? My vault is completely full again, purples and blues. I would like to. I really just went into. I just enjoyed the game mode. It wasn't even so much about the loot, and the gear. The gear was nice, but the game mode was just a blast. But it has, in turn, fucked up the progression. There's no way of getting around that. And the worst thing is, like, rank and cryo aren't even out yet. And there's people, I've ran into people with gold shields, and you see the YouTube videos and the shorts, and people are fully kitted out due to sponsor run. Now I know Bungie is going to work on correcting that, but I think, and to be honest, I wish there was another wipe now that sponsor run was gone, and I think that would be, I would be totally down with that. Now, I think overall, though, I think the game mode was a success. Especially in my opinion, I think it was a success. I think it was fun. And I'm kind of sad to see it go. After I would do, a bunch of rounds in regular and lose all my gear, I would go on a sponsor run because it kept me saying, I can actually, like, even if it was just like a crazy team, I could go in and, I could just farm it in a way, and it was still obviously up to RNG, but it was just like a nice palate cleanser from going into normals and instantly dying. Yeah. Now, when they do come out with a PvE mode, I think Bungie really needs to look at how they have the loot configured. Because again, sponsor run really is kind of split the community as a whole. A lot of people are mad, and again, it really messed up the progression, in my opinion. One solution that I keep seeing get recommended is to take the path of something like Tarkov, have a PvE and a PvP mode. I don't think that's necessarily the solution, or it has to be the solution, to be honest. And also what it does is it leads us down the path, the same thing that happened to Destiny, where you would have your sandbox experience and then the Crucible. In that case, the Crucible was always lacking, just with updates, content, map, so on and so forth. So there has to be some sort of way, some give or take from either side, the side that wants to get more PvE content and PvP, and try to, there has to be give and take. Like, let's be honest, even with this free week and the increased player count and things like that, to keep Marathon up and running, we need more than 30k players. And the only way to get more than 30k players is to start thinking outside of the box. And obviously in my last video, I said that Marathon wasn't a problem, Bungie's a problem. And that's true, but you need to try to find something where you can get that existing fan base from Destiny 2 and get them onboarded into Marathon. Everybody knows that Destiny 2, the big content was the PvE content. Yes, there was a large player base that were dedicated to Crucible. Myself, I mean, I did all the content. I did the raids, PvE and PvP, high end on both raiding, Nightfalls, Trials of Osiris. I did it all, but there needs to try to find a way to incorporate that other player base into Marathon. And extraction shooters are a hard sell for a lot of people, but sponsor run definitely gives me hope that they might be able to find that juice to get something to work. And unfortunately, it's gonna mess up some of these seasons, and it's gonna piss people off. Like, one solution I keep seeing over and over in the Discord, other than just delete sponsor run, is to separate the vaults, have a PvE vault and a PvP vault. And I understand the thought process, but at the same time, I don't think that's quite the solution, right? At least in my case, this is my case. I'm pretty garbage. Like, I'm getting better, as I mentioned, but I'm pretty garbage. So when I get some good loot, I mean, it's just going to the worms. It's just getting fed or somebody takes it from me. But I can see how impactful it would be if you had higher tier players farming golds, and at the start of the season they already have golds. It causes a lot of problems. So it's a tricky solution. It's a tricky situation to be in. And me personally, I don't know the answer of how to do this. I can say, though, that I think Sponsor Run was fun. I'm excited to see what and how they do the PvE purely mode. And real quick, side ramble. This was not a PvP light mode. As I said, I ran an insane amount of Sponsor Run because I like the mode. In those times, I think I saw rooks 2 or 3 times. Like a total of 4 or 5 rooks in all my games. And I know that there was a bug, which is why they were feeding all the rooks into sponsor run. But, I mean, who wants to play that? Honestly, what rook would want to play that? So calling sponsor run a PvP light mode, I mean, it was just a PvE mode. So that definitely needs to be taken care of and corrected. But anyway, side rant over. But yeah, I don't know the solution. But I know it affects everybody with them doing this. And they need to keep that in mind. One solution could be, if it's an experimental mode, that you don't keep the loot at the end. And I think that may be a solution. Instead of keeping the loot at the end, maybe sell all of it for credits. Something less impactful. Me personally, I would probably still play it again, a sponsor run or a mode like that, because again, I just like the roguelite aspect, and I enjoyed all that. But obviously other people might not, and feel like they wasted their time by playing it. So I just don't want to see them split the vaults. I don't think that's the solution, and I don't think it needs to be. But yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble. If you guys have any ideas or any comments, comment below, like the video, subscribe. I want to try to upload more, but I'll be honest, I'm really bad at this editing shit, so I'm trying to figure it out as I go. But all right, yeah, peace.